All right, we are live. Let's get the comments up on the stream. Get everybody the link. All right. Tag a couple of roles there just so everyone can see this. All right. Good morning. Let me share my screen for you guys here in the Discord. Get that rocking and rolling as well. Okay, so we're doing this in free today. We've got the comments up on the other monitor so I can see who's on the social media side of stuff. And then we're here in the Discord. All right, can you guys see my screen okay? And hear my face, I guess. If you can, please press 1. If not, don't put anything in there because I know you're a liar. Also, just so everyone knows, Lee is not here today. He's got a family situation. He's focused where he needs to be focused. So he's going to be out today. He will probably still check in, but he's not going to be live streaming or anything like that right now. So let's push some buttons here. So last night I grabbed 2 shares of CETX, pretty much just for tracking because I want to see how it's going to respond to these levels here. So I do plan to add some more to this if and only if I get some volume. If not, I'm just going to cut it. It's only 2 shares. It's like $7, $6.60. So I don't have to fret too much about that. So we'll see what it does. And yeah, I like it. I like the setup on it. If you look at the 15-minute, it's got plenty of volatility in this range. So if we get volume and it happens to be directional, we should have a nice little pop on that one potentially. But no volume means just cut it and take a small loss. So it's kind of an overnight. That's my version of a YOLO on equity. So, but keeping it a super small position until I see confirmation. That's the key. So let's build our watch list for the day. And this process is very simple. I try to keep everything as simple as possible. I'm just going to erase all the old levels here. What have I done? What did I just click? What did I just do? All right. Well, I clicked something. I know that. Oh, I did the open voice quote. That's weird. I don't know what that means. I've never used that feature on Webull. I don't know, man. Oh, this is great. I don't see my buying power adjusted, so I assume I didn't place an order. So that's all I really care about. But we're going to slow down. We're going to slow down on clicking stuff because that was great. Don't do whatever I did. And as soon as I figure it out, I won't do it either. All right. So process is very straightforward. I am on the pre-market top gainers. So I add the tops widget to my Webull interface. Make sure I click on top gainers. Make sure it's sorted by percentage. And then I click pre-market under this drop down here because we are 12 minutes till market open. Then I'm just going to go down this list and look at the percentages. And I'm going to look at these 4 columns here. I've got pre-market price, percent change, volume, and market cap. So the general rule is that I want to see a volume at least 1 times or bigger. So 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, some multiple of the market cap. And then I also want to see, once that condition's met, I also want to see that the pre-market price isn't super low. Like if it's like 8 cents like this, this is a 25 to 1 almost volume to market cap ratio, but it's an 8-cent stock. So that doesn't really mean that it's good volume. It just means that there's enough money per share in there to jack the volume up, which is great. It's good volume, but they're also dirt cheap. So people are buying hundreds of thousands of shares at a time. And then all that money, all those shares still only puts it up to 2.5 million market cap. So you get a kind of, there's a specific mathematical way you can address, which one is valid versus which one's not. I don't believe this one kind of meets that criteria. I think it's a little too low. But I do like this one, and this one does have decent enough volume. So let's just start at the top of the list. We'll go down, and sometimes I like to add stuff that doesn't have that ratio just yet, purely based on whether or not it's at the top of the list or if it's a good percentage or anything like that. So I do like NCL, but I don't really like it here. I'm going to add it to the list anyway, just because it's not about what I like. It's about what the market likes. So something like this could very easily get the volume, and I need to just keep an eye on it if that does happen. But I don't like this time frame, so I'm already going to tell myself I got to look at a higher time frame for that one. ESHA, I kind of like that. I don't like what it's doing here. because obviously we're pushing to the downside where you get a little pullback and then H-shaped continuation. But I do like this segment of chart. Oh, hey, alarm clock. He likes it too. Because I do like what this is showing. So I'm going to draw a box right here on this one, actually. And yeah, let's just add that one to the watch list. I like the price action on this one, not so much the volume. And also the pre-market price on this one is $20. So got to be mindful of that. ORIS, not a fan of this one. We've watched this one run a couple times. You know, if I look back on like the 2 hour, you can see it's got a lot of volatility. It's one of the ones that just gives those profits right back. So maybe we'll keep an eye on it. I'm not going to add it to my watch list though. It's just not there yet. AFJK, same thing. DRCT, same thing. I just don't really like a lot of what I'm seeing this morning. ULY, obviously we do like. So I'm going to add this to my list. Even though the volume is super low, it's in a good price range and it's showing good spot volume. So I'll play around with that one a little bit. So it is also New Year's Eve, you know, and Happy New Year's to you guys. So I hope 2025 was as good as possible. I know there was a lot of challenges and a lot of personal strife in this year for quite a few of our members, just because life happens. It's not about the market. That's just life. So hopefully 2026 is better, and we'll see where it goes. But everything we can control, we owe it to ourselves to control going forward. So I hope this is the year where people don't take big losses, because again, that's what takes you out of the market. So I'd like to see you guys succeed in that front, in that you just don't take big losses. You know, I can't tell you what to do. Ooh, this is nice. That is beautiful. I'm not going to trade anything pre-market because that would be insane on today. But that is a textbook. So basically a break over this line here would be the high risk, pretty aggressive entry with a stop loss right below the entry candle or the low. And then of course we get lower highs, which is great. So I'm just going to keep a really close eye on that one. That might be compelling enough. I don't know. So my buying power is 128.58. So I'm just going to divide that by 4. Divided by 4 is going to be 32.14. So 32, make it 32.15. And then I'm going to change this to the day's P&L. And you can see I've got that 32-cent drawdown here on CETX from those tracker shares. So I guess we'll just tolerate that. My goal, of course, for the day is just to get 1.5% overall. So if I get 0.2% for the day and I'm done and I just walk away, that's okay too. If I take a small loss, maybe I'm down 2% for the day, or maybe I'm down 0.3% for the day. When the charts tell me it's time to walk away and I'm done for the day, I will listen. And that's it. That's just the only advantage I have as someone who's been doing this for a decade and a half, is that I know how to listen to the chart. All right, we got about 2 minutes till auction cross. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some more of these ranges. And for this part, I'm just drawing areas where the price takes off from, where we see impulses. And then I'm drawing a box, basically, which consumes the candle which caused it. And this is how you identify where the institutions are. It's not so much the big moves. It's not the displacements themselves. A lot of traders try to catch the pullbacks. You know, they try to do the fair value gap situation. But we know how the market works, and we know who the participation pool is. So we know that these zones have a little bit better potential in terms of risk reward ratio, as well as just the absolute monster moves that come out of these. So we don't need the whole move. We just need our piece. But having those moves in the mix is pretty nice. So I like these zones so far. I don't really see any that form to the downside, which tells me the algo, the axe, if you will, the largest algo on the chain, is predominantly bullish, or he's putting ask side pressure in the mix. So that's good. And then it doesn't seem like they're getting a lot of absorption. I don't really like any of this. I got to go up to a different time frame, check the 5 minute. I like this a little bit better. Still kind of trash volume though, so I got to be very careful. I'm going to draw a box right there based on this guy, and I think that's it. Oh, this is nice. That's super weak. I don't really like this level. I'm going to make this like a dark gray. It's not validated at all. And then I guess we could kind of do that, right? We see a lot of participation here. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to do on that one. ESHA, and then ULY, obviously I don't really have to do too much here. We already drew some levels on this one. And then also, since we're on social media, I'm going to put these tickers over here and put them on the screen. ESHA and ULY. So I'm going to put them on the stream, and then I'm going to post them on the actual screen so that anyone who's watching this can see the tickers. All right. So I think my number 2 and number 1 candidates are probably going to be ANGH and ESHA. I don't think I'm going to like NCL into open, but we'll have to see what the market brings us. You know, we don't want to rule anything out or have a bias going into open. I have my my Turbo Trader button here that I can push to get in when it's time to get in, and then I have my hotkeys here to sell 75% of my shares, and then to close out the position completely when it's time to get out. So I'm just going to let the market tell me what to do, and I'm going to push buttons when it tells me to push buttons because I'm very lazy. So in the interest of this one, if we wanted to take our super aggressive entry here, which I'm not going to do, we would have entered right here at 411 or 412 more realistically, because you would have had the 1 cent confirmation here. And you can see it's kind of struggling a little bit. So it is New Year's Eve. It is the absolute last day of the year. This is the day people are going to be looking to lock in those last minute losses and rebalance their portfolios. So there's going to be some jankiness in the market. Okay. So I don't want to have anybody get caught in anything crazy here. If you don't like drawdown, it is a choice. Okay. I want you guys to recognize that, embrace it, accept it. You don't have to deal with crazy drawdown. Okay. You can always just cut a position if you don't like it. We got about 3 minutes till market open, and my thesis is pretty straightforward. I want to wait. Any strategy should do 3 things, right? It should wait until price is going the direction that makes us money before we get in. It should allow us to stay in while it keeps moving in that direction, and it should get us out when it stops moving in that direction. So if a strategy doesn't do those 3 things, just reconsider it. You know, if you want to. I can't tell you not to use it, but ask yourself if it makes sense. Red Ace, why do you not use stop loss take profit instead of manually sell? It's just personal preference. You know, I'm not a brand new trader, so I don't need the automation necessarily. It's just personal preference because I like to let my profits run. But you absolutely could. Like if you're a new trader or you just want to be a little bit less involved, you absolutely can be. I have brackets set up specifically for that. So I have like my control 8 has a 6% take profit bracket, and my control 5 has a 1% stop loss, 6% take profit. So you absolutely could. All right, so it looks like we're starting to get some push on this one. This is ANGH, the one that did our 5 candle run into this area of high potential of known violence. So we'll see if that one wants to continue. We got about 1 minute 41 seconds till market open, which means it's time for me to take a sip of my drink. What do I think of ISPC? I don't know. It's not on my watch list. I don't like it. There's no volume. It's a 37-cent stock pre-market. It's got almost 10 million free float. It doesn't have a lot of restricted shares, which is good. This is one I'd probably look at after market open. What's got this on your radar? Is it just the percent? Rick, what do you like about it? We got about 1 minute till market open, so I'm just going to keep an eye on all 4 of these. Also, I'm going to click this and go to 1 day, and then I'm going to click the top losers and then click top gainers after the market opens in about 52 seconds. You're looking from the watch list channel and stock alerts light? That's fair. I mean, it's got potential. It just doesn't have the volume, right? So once the volume comes in, yeah, different conversation, right? If you're trading the structural breakout, the volume will tend to follow. So it's not always going to be there as the move is pushing up. But if it wants to go, it'll pop up on my radar, you know, and then we'll just trade it on the on that side, you know. All right, so we got 16 seconds till market open. I got my 2 tracker shares of CETX for a potential blast on that one. I've got 4 other tickers here from this morning that are fresh: ANGH, NCL, ESHA and ULY, which is one of my favorites. That's a repeat offender. And the market is open, so I'm just going to give Webull a minute to catch up because it likes to lag. And I'm just going to click here, click there. So this is fresh list. And then I'm just going to click here, shrink this over so there's less noise. And I'm just keeping an eye on these percentages right now. I'm not doing anything crazy just yet. I can see that this one's got a lot of dancing on it, and this one's starting to get a little bit of flash to it, but nothing's really moving just yet. Except ULY is kind of pulling down and then back up. So a little slingshot action there. So I'm really just kind of keeping an eye on these. And if things like this want to just blast, that's okay. I'm not going to fight or chase them, especially on New Year's Eve. If it goes and it has a big impulse like that, it'll leave behind a zone, and then I'll just trade the retest of the zone. That's what I like. I like to trade the pullbacks or the retests. All right, so it looks like we might be getting ready here on AMGH if it pushes out of this area. I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece down here, see if we can hold that box. If not, I might just cut that one. I don't really like it stacked as much on the ask side. It should be a little bit stronger in the ask side. So we'll see if they want to defend that range. Otherwise, I'm going to cut this one nice and tight and just not deal with it. So this is not the day to double down on stuff and try to be right and things like that. Days like today are scary. So let the market make the choices. Sorry, let me catch up on the chat here. Red Ace, isn't it better to sell at market if you're manually selling a volatile stock instead of limit at last price, since it can drop below that very quickly and you can miss? That's always a risk. There's a 2.9% on that one, by the way. So just as a disclaimer here, if you're a new trader, when we see moves like that, you can always just cut it nice and early. Like I didn't sell at 2.9%. I was kind of focused on the chat here, but we don't want to stay in them super far to the downside. So, yeah, so you certainly could. Like if you place your sell order right here and it comes up and taps it and you don't get filled and that shoots back to the downside, that can absolutely be frustrating. But it's also important to know that if a stock is that volatile, when you do place a market order, I'm just going to keep trying this level here. If you do place a market order, you're going to have challenges either way, because you're still going to get filled on the way down. It's just a matter of kind of where you fall in the queue. And if you place a limit order, you have higher priority in terms of getting matched. So it's just a trade-off. It's going to be very case by case. But I would say that if your trading involves that tight of movement, you're trading stuff that's too risky. So you just got to be very careful with that stuff. All right, I'm going to go ahead and grab some on a breakout of this candle here. Again, same process. I'm just going to keep it nice and tight. If I end up getting a couple losses today, that's all right, because this account's up 33% in the month of December. Well, 2 weeks, basically. So I'm not too worried about that. So I always try to call out the early, quote unquote, early take profits. So there's 2.5% almost on that one. So if you're just someone that wants to just get in and out and just lock in those nice tight profits, I don't want you guys copying me, but that right there is where you could have just secured some of that profit. Jun just made his 1.3% on NGH. He's done for the day. Hell yeah. Was it on this candle or was it on the opening candle? Love it. Just in and out. This guy ain't here to mess around. I love it. Both good stuff, man. That's where it's at. All right, NCL looks like it's popping too, but it's halted, so no juice on that one. It's a 500,000 float with 6 times as many restricted shares. Scary business there. NCL is pushing up out of the box. I don't like it though. Plus, if it goes too much higher, then I won't be able to trade it because my allocation size is $32.15 on this account. And if it goes over $32.15 cents, then I can't buy the 100 shares. So, which I don't feel bad about. Just going to peek at ANGH again, and then just switch over to ULY. So yeah, I mean, this one, it's not really showing the good stuff, It's struggling to get past this wick over here. So we'll just kind of hang out. We'll see what this one has to offer, because this volume is going to consolidate somewhere, and this one has the best potential for a bigger move and then a push over this high. So we'll see if we get that or a bunch of rejections and chop out. And that's just the kind of day it is. So if you're not comfortable with losses or drawdown, then you can always choose to just sit the day out. You don't have to trade this kind of stuff. So I'm probably going to cut this here pretty soon. It is going down a little bit farther than I'm comfortable with. So I think if we lose right here, I'm just going to cut it. Okay, I'm out. I don't want to deal with that. So that's okay. So I've taken 2 losses and I'm down a grand total of $2.20. So not destroying the portfolio here. Remember, it's 33% up for, since the 15th. And that's the advantage. I'm zoomed in super close. These look like big losses. I'm using quarter positions, and I'm cutting them up here, even if it seems drastic, as opposed to cutting it like down here. So I don't want to hang out too much in sketchy territory. All I'm doing is grabbing a move out of that box or grabbing a move out of that box, and that's it. I'm not looking for heroics here. So let me see. I'm just going to kind of peek around here. ESHA is kind of range bound still. NCL is unhalted. That's weird. Yeah, I don't think I can participate on that one. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to over allocate just for the sake of chasing something that's up this high, especially a 30-cent stock. I think I'm just going to stick with ANGH and see what that gives us. Obviously, we're not going to jump in just because we saw a giant red candle, right? We don't want to try to predict the bottom. So I'm going to wait for a confirmation. And it might just take a little bit until we see the setup. So that's okay. Dabriam took 0.45% on ANGH just now, trading a tiny part of my account for practice. Also done and happy using your new hotkeys from the video. Beautiful, man. That's good stuff. Did you, was it pretty stress-free? I think it's just kind of in and out. Bing, bang, boom. Because that's the goal. We want it to be boring. We don't want excitement. We don't want, like, the market shouldn't be where we get our validation from. And if I got to take a couple small losses in a row, it's okay. Like, you can't let that stuff get in your head either. Because again, this account's up 33%, 32% now. So small losses are the cost of doing business. But if you don't accept the small losses, they will turn into big losses, and then the losses become much more impactful and significant. And that's not what we like, because that doesn't feel good. So just going to kind of keep an eye on ESHA, because that one it looks like it's trying to validate that zone there. I'd much rather get a retest off this guy, but it's also a $22 stock. So I'll get like 1 share, and then it would have to go up to like 23 bucks, basically just under 23 bucks, which is fine. I can very easily just get from there to there. But I won't be able to scale out or anything like that. So for this one, I'd much rather see a move down through this gray box into this box and then a push back to the upside. So we'll hang out with ANGH. That seems to be the best candidate once NCL kind of slows down, because right now that's just gobbling up all the participation because it's a low cost stock and it's super high volume. So all the algos are chilling on that one. So once that halts again, or if it starts to sell off, then we should get our setup over here. But I'm not going to jump into this one and hope it stops, because that's not how trading works. That's how gambling works. Also, just going to peek over here at ULY really quick. This one is just kind of chopping right here in this range, which tells me once we break over like $4, we might get a good pop on this one. So I'm going to put a line right there, and we'll see if we can break over that. Otherwise, I'm just going to focus on ANGH for today. I just don't see the goodness on these just yet. ESHA is starting to move up a little bit. So I'm not going to trade this one. We could just look for a breakout out of that box. That's all I would care about. But I'm going to pass on that one, even if it does just decide to blast and halt and all that good stuff. That's okay. So yeah, I'm just going to focus on ANGH here. May erase these extra lines as well. Devram says, it went really fast and I used the wrong hotkey for my sell the first time, so I created brackets when I was expecting a flat. That's understandable. And you said you're new to the hotkeys, or they're new hotkeys configurations, so that's okay. I think you're in a good spot. It's good practice. But if it was too fast and you found yourself kind of misclicking or something like that, that's always, there's always room to just slow down. And I'm glad you used a very small position for that, because you got the practice without, taking a huge risk and hoping you were right and having a whole bunch of emotional turmoil. So good stuff. There's a lot of volatility right now on NCL in terms of percentages. It is really just like pushing up and down in this candle. That's typically not a good sign, especially if you got two large wicks right here. So this may be coming back here pretty soon. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Our job isn't to predict, but this is definitely sketchy territory. So at this point, 5 candle rule gets put into effect and we keep a stop loss, a partial stop loss at least. Now, I would say I would justify putting it in place, even though this candle hasn't closed. It's supposed to be 5 closed candles, but I just don't like what it's doing here. So I would definitely keep a stop in place. I might, if I was in this, I probably already would have locked the majority of it right there, just to be safe, because once this starts to fall, it could very easily come all the way down here to like 30 cents, and that's going to hurt a lot of people. So I wouldn't want to get caught in that. All right, ANGH. Sorry, finding a little bit of, I don't want to say support, but it's finding some bi-directional participation in this range. So let's see if we can get a push down to here. I don't want to get stuck in the middle of this range. I want a clean push down here, and then a tiny candle that I can see a color change on, and then we'll see a blast to the upside in theory. Otherwise, I'll have a super tiny risk. And then if I have to take a stop, I can. It'll be super tiny. So this one here is a little large. It's okay. It's still within my risk tolerance, but it's better than taking a 20% loss or 35% loss. So if people are asking, how I build these accounts, it's just because I stopped losing all that money. You can have a pretty atrocious win rate and still make money in the market. It's all about scaling your risk exposure and then the ability to actually do it. So psychology. JWAG, I've definitely bought instead of selling and vice versa when transitioning between trading methods. Absolutely. That is another advantage to a cash account as well, because you can't accidentally short sell something and then, end up getting liquidated. Nope, there goes all your money. Because there's nothing worse than, selling off into a bullish impulse and then you oversell. So you end up short selling and then the price goes up higher and it just keeps going. And then it can happen within seconds. And then before you know it, it's up 17% and you're in a short position and oops, there you go. Broker angry. Yeah, cash accounts definitely have some built-in protections. Once I know everyone's super eager to jump into margin and uses funded accounts and stuff. It's don't hurt yourself. It's not worth the risk. ULY, by the way, is pulling down pretty hard and it's starting to get some violence on it. I don't think I'm going to trade this one until it comes down to here and holds 3, and only if it holds 3. But I do like what it's doing here in terms of volume. So back to ANGH we go. NCL's pulled back a little bit. It went from 85% down to 68%. So, that has a lot more downside potential. This is a fair value gap, which in the way of how fair value gaps are actually structured, this is a momentum gap to the downside potentially. So it's not a reversal zone necessarily, as YouTube would have you believe. So please be careful if you trade using that approach. All right, so on this one, ANGH, we got 4 out of the 5 candles so far for a 5 candle run. I would like to see a clean retest of this box down here in the 360s. Right now we're in the 370s, the mid 370s. So if we get this candle and then maybe one more to come down and puncture that box, we'll have our setup that we really, really like. We'll have a 5 candle rule that punches into one of these boxes. Otherwise, we'll just see what when it gets punctured. But we should be coming down. It's pretty good on the bid side here. Now, the only challenge here is this 378 wall. It's kind of hanging out. So somebody wants the price to go up, but I think it's a little early personally. I'd much rather see, yeah, it's getting bought up here a little bit. Blah. So we want the big guy to slap him down a little bit because we want the price to come down and test our zone. So the bid side's still larger. It's still more aggressive. It's got a steeper slope. So we'll see if that can pull down through that candle and potentially trap that person or those people. I guess it's algos. It's not like retail traders. It's all banks trying to consume each other. There's a nice wick on it though. So I don't care if it pushes up. I don't care if it does all the things that, you know, our brain wants us to be in on. My setup, right? Even if it's a setup, it's not my setup unless it tests this box or breaks up through this box. And that's my advantage as a seasoned trader, is that I can pass on things that don't fit my criteria. And I don't like the volume today in the market. It's a super sketchy day. And also it's very important to notice that I'm not jumping around from ticker to ticker. Like INBS is right here at the top of the list. It's got a good volume market cap ratio, good percentage. It's in the price range. It's got a 7 million free float. I'm not looking at it because I don't care. There's no need to just chase opportunities. It may very well have a great set of moves, but that would not be me following my plan. So sometimes we just got to endure, you know. But I see a lot of new traders. Oh, what's the next ticker? What's the next ticker? What's the next ticker? And they just constantly have a screener up and they're just focused on that more than the chart that they're actually looking at and waiting for a setup. And then they go and chase these other setups, and then they come back and this setup does exactly what they were looking for a little bit later in the morning, and then they beat themselves up because they missed out and, you know, the other one didn't work out. And then, you know, we've all been in that cycle. It doesn't feel good. So the best thing you can do is just not care. All right, so we're starting to come down to this level here. I'm going to go ahead and put a level there and then try to lock it to the wick. Sorry, I'm moving that screen around a lot. Oh no, I meant to keep that one up there. That's going to be my new high of day. All right, so we didn't quite puncture the box yet, so I'm still going to hang out. We got about 3 seconds left on this candle. This one here didn't as well before it pushed up, so we'll see if we can get an actual break. I'm just going to erase this diagonal line so we can see the price clearly. And then we also have a couple zones below this, so this may not be the bottom. Okay, it's potential, but it's not the bottom. And I would like to see it actually push into this box, not just come near it, but I want to see it puncture the box like a little mosquito. I want the blood. I want to get what's in there. That's the good stuff. June, this is what I take my little 1% P&L and run. Yeah, absolutely. Just you got in, you got out, right? You get yours, now you get over it. That's as complicated as it needs to be. All right, so at this point, yeah, I would say that counts. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this down because that is my entry threshold. It punctured the box, and as soon as it breaks over that candle, I can get in. And if it, you know, if it gives me an entry signal, let's say this candle goes green and then just starts pushing up a little bit, and I don't make a profit, that's okay because it's a successful trade, even if it's not profitable. And portfolio growth is just a series of successful trades where the winners outweigh the losers. And we can always just lock like the bulk of the shares at a quick 1.5 to 2% profit. Like I could have done that up here pretty easily on both those trades, but I didn't. So that's okay. If you're a new trader and you just want those consistent base hit profits that add up, that's the much easier way to trade. So also notice that I'm not just jumping in now because I want to wait until it shows me that it's time to push the button. If I just jump in now, I'm anticipating and guessing that it's right. And in reality, all it's done is move down. So I want the price to be going up, right? Because that's the direction that makes me money. And that's one of my 3 criteria. All right, we got a wall here at 369, 1521, 15. Yeah, still 1521. So it's kind of indecision mode right here. 1465, 1265, they're going to pull that wall. All right, so 369 is going to be kind of a key level for them to break over, which is good for me because my level's right here at 371. So might get a little pop on that one if it does. I don't see a whole bunch here, but I do see a couple submerged walls. So once that breaks over 369, we might see our move. 369.5. Okay, so we got a little bit of a fill over that, but it wasn't quite a full cent, so it didn't get up 370 yet. But they're trying. What's happening here is there's active orders on both sides, and they're pulling the price back and forth. So I want the active orders, the aggressive orders, to be on the ask side, because that's what pulls the price up. So right now we got a pretty sizable wall here on the bid at 365, which is also, again, why we don't want to just jump in and hope we're right. I have to wait until the chart tells me it's time to get in. As boring as it is. Right? And you got to consider, like, if this goes all the way down to like 330, I would have saved myself all that headache by just not anticipating. So I'm looking for a fill above 371. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and get in right here. And of course, my goal now is to just focus on getting out. So it may very well continue to the downside. It may move to the upside. That is not under my control. I only control whether or not I'm in or if I'm out and how far I allow things to move in either direction. So we're moving into this with a downward move. So we may very well get a lower move. Okay. Also, let me just check something real fast while I'm in here. Okay. All right. So there's a quick 1% right there. So I'll just walk through it. There's 1.5%. Could have just locked that profit right there, or at least the bulk of the shares, and just get that consistent base hit. Let the smaller piece run if we wanted to. There's 2%. And all of these traders out there are watching YouTube videos and struggling with analysis and just making it way harder than it has to be. And we're just just drawing some boxes, and it's just shapes and colors, guys. Don't make it complicated. All right, we're just over 2% there. And again, at any point here, we could lock those profits, or at least most of them, right? We could lock most of the shares, guarantee a net profit. And then if the remaining shares want to pull back down, you still have a net profit overall. Possessive says, my strategy would not allow me to enter, so I'll be waiting a bit longer. Absolutely. Don't copy me. Use your strategy, collect your data, prove to yourself whether or not your rules make sense and whether or not they're sustainable, right? Don't ever just copy Pookie. There's 2.5%. And again, I'm gonna repeat this 1,000 times. If you're a new trader, if you're struggling with consistency, if you're taking big losses, you can take your risk off the table right now at 3%, or at least the bulk of it, and guarantee yourself a net profit on this trade if you were to enter around the same area I did. But I don't want you guys to copy. But I do want you to understand that anytime you're above your break even, you could take some of that risk off the table. Red Ace, do you draw boxes based on supply and demand zones for the day? Kind of depends. Sometimes I draw them on higher time frames and I come down to the lower time frames, but it really just depends on what the chart shows me. So I try to draw the most recent impulses and specifically where they came from, but only if they have a small range. So it's case by case. Sometimes I might go back a few days. Sometimes I might draw it on like the weekly time frame and catch a breakout. And that way I get the weekly profit range, but I can still have the intraday risk range. So I can trade those over and over. And then eventually the profit will, typically happen. And then I get a much bigger profit range, but the risks all stay the same size. Also, what is CETX? I might just cut that one. It's down $1.28. So you can see my days P&L is down $1.80 here. $1.20 some odd of that. $1.28 is from my 2 shares of CETX. So we'd be around 60 cents down at this point instead of, $2. And those are just tracker shares. I'm not trying to make a huge profit on that one. I'm just seeing if and only if there's going to be volume that pushes back into that one. If there is, I'll add some more to it and I'll trade it that way. But if not, I'll just cut it and take a loss. So I'm not going to be holding those past like noon unless I see a significant move to the upside. Delicious. All right, so we're getting there. I'm just going to kind of peek at this list here just to kind of see where the volume is settling right now. It looks like a good chunk of it's sitting in INBS. And this is basically the reason we want to pick like 4 of these, 4 or 5, is that these act like buckets. And when the top candidate of the day or the one with the most volume in a short amount of time, when that slows down or when the ticker reverses or when it halts, for example, the volume tends to disperse and then it clusters in on the next best candidate because it's all the same algos just circulating from ticker to ticker. So that can kind of help you time when yours is likely to move by being able to observe that. Though it kind of depends on the day, obviously. So it's not always going to be like that. You're not always going to have one big cluster of volume. Sometimes they're pretty evenly spread out and sometimes they're just kind of moving up together. Like today's kind of in between. You see a lot of volume on like 3 or 4 of these tickers. So it might, maybe after like 10 o'clock, we might get that real crunchy consolidation of participation. And then it'll kind of just pick a ticker and run or sell off drastically. And then that volume will just spill over into something else. So it's a really weird morning in terms of volume in the market. So I'm not super enthusiastic about having a lot of risk today. So and again, even if I take all 4 losses for the day, they're small. So I'm okay. I'm not gonna be upset because this account is up 30+% since the 15th. And then just as proof of that, let me pull that up here for the live stream here. This is my cash account log that I keep. So on December 15th, I trimmed this one back down to 100. We're up to 130s something so far today. Just doing the same thing. It's just the same process over and over and over again. You guys see me do it all the time on live streams. I show you guys my losses. You guys just saw me take 2 of them. I show you guys my drawdown. You guys see me drawing down here on CETX by about 20%, but it's the position sizing that really makes the difference. It is a slow day indeed, possessive. And this is where a lot of traders kind of get like antsy and they want to jump into stuff and they, maybe they look over here and see this is up 100% and they'll see all these like flickering ones and they'll try to chase. And I'm telling you guys, there's so much more value in just picking a small handful of things, maybe even just 2, and then really just identifying high quality, low risk setups and just waiting and just being patient. And then there's going to be days where you do that. You do it perfectly and you still take losses. And then they're going to beat themselves up. But it's those days where you have to just trust the process. You have to understand that your losses are small and controlled. They're insignificant. And the biggest demon in the room with you in that case is usually just opportunity cost, because you want to participate, you want to get wins. And when you take a loss and you lock it in, you're kind of forced to set that money aside for the day. When in reality, what you've done is you've protected that money, because otherwise, you could have had a bigger loss. So, so it's important to reframe those losses, because that seems to be the biggest struggle with a lot of traders is they don't want to lock in losses. And that makes sense. It doesn't feel good, plus we take the opportunity, the potential off the table when we lock in that loss, because we're no longer in the trade that we want to go up, super far. And that just leads us to hesitate and to be in denial about it. So the longer you spend in denial, the more you're going to pay the market. That's a very correlative cost. So keep that in mind. We don't have to just be right all the time. It's okay to just cut your losses and run. At least in my opinion. The doctor got my piece in less than a minute and up 4.3% today. Moving on with life. Great way to end the year. Beautiful, man. That's good stuff. So a year ago, would you have been happy with 4.3%, or would you have been losing your mind because it wasn't enough? You agree? You think losses channel would be good feedback to show better than profits? Dude, I've been advocating for that for a long time. We got some pushback on that, obviously, because I think the main concern is that newer traders might misinterpret the intent of that channel. But yeah, absolutely. Showing that you can do small, consistent losses and then showing that they don't impact you as much. I think there's so much more value in that than any profit channel. I would love to see a small loss channel, but I don't know, maybe. That's not my decision, unfortunately. Like, I don't get to make that kind of call. But, member feedback, we always take those surveys and stuff. So if there's ideas you guys want to have in there, I would certainly not be opposed to seeing that one. But that is something I brought up a long time ago. Losing your mind for sure. You're stoked at small profits now and just moving on. Yeah, you're buying your freedom at the end of the day. You're just getting in. You're getting out like almost immediately in most cases. You're just getting your small piece so that you can chip away at your financial future, right? You're just building your beach one grain of sand at a time. Guess what happens if you bring boulders to a beach and then try to smash them up with a hammer? You're going to be sweating. It's going to be hard work. It's going to take a lot more out of you than just getting a pocket full of sand here and there, just walking around. We don't want profits and losses and exposure to be unwieldy, because it's not good for your mental health. Every new trader I talk to thinks this needs to be like a grind, and that's not true. It should just be a couple minutes here and there, just in and out. Whether you're doing swings or day trades, whatever. You can automate 90% of it if you wanted. Like, you could set a buy stop order at this level, and then it gets filled and you have an automatic take profit stop loss bracket in place. You just close your broker down at that point if you want. You don't have to sit there and stare at stuff all day. It's not worth it. So think of all the time that you're freeing up and all the time you're saving where you can focus on other stuff, where 90% of other traders are going to sit there and commit to staring at their screen all day instead of spending time with family or focusing on being better at work or learning a new skill like computer programming or learning another language or just anything more stimulating and more rewarding than staring at bars and colors. So it looks like we're getting a little bit of drawdown here. Let's see if we get a buy up on this, or if it's going to break below. If it drops below that low, that wick right there, I'm just going to cut this one too. I do not want to fight with the market today. After this one, I'll have one more opportunity, and then we're out, and then that's it. And we'll just wrap up 2025, probably about 30% up, and then on the small cash account, and then we'll just move on. Otherwise, if it wants to go up, I'm not going to stop it. Saw someone selling a violin on Facebook Marketplace for $100. I'm seriously considering buying it and trying to learn. Be like a male version of Lindsey Sterling. Only if you have the outfits and only if you do the dancing. You have to frolic around and you have to be like super upbeat about it. And you got to adopt an accent, but not do it in an offensive way. There you go. Yep, you got to kick your feet. You have to kick your feet and twirl a lot. That's what she does. Every video I see, that's all she's doing. She's just kicking and twirling in a circle. So do it up, man. Get that violin. Do you plan to do music therapy for your patients? It might be a tax expense or deduction, sorry. If torture is therapy, well, that depends on who you ask. I mean, I call it job security personally. I mean, waterboarding is just making sure that someone's like aggressively hydrated, right? Why are your ears bleeding? It's a Mallory Weiss of the ears, sir. That's from all the heaving. You got this. Are you looking at any tutorials or anything on YouTube? Or do you have any musician friends that play violin that can help you get started? Or are you just going to figure it out the hard way with the animals? And their caretakers, I assume. All right, so it is a super slow morning. Remember, it is New Year's Eve. We're watching paint dry right now, and that's okay. I'd rather take this than excitement and chaos. So far, everything's holding up as best as could be expected. You know, NCL popped out of that zone. That's great. Didn't trade it. ANGH is testing this zone again. ESHA is struggling. Like, see how many wicks there are? That's insane. Don't like that. And then ULY definitely came back, tested that zone perfectly, and popped back up, but it's in here now. So I missed my opportunity on that one, but that's okay, because my entry criteria would have been like right here, and that's too high up. So I'm okay passing on that one. So far, we've made the best possible choices according to the strategy that I use. So far, pretty successful day, other than maybe a little hesitation on selling this one, but that's okay, because I still saw what I liked in the volume. So still within my risk tolerance. I wouldn't really consider that a deviation, just kind of slow execution in terms of getting filled. That's kind of on the broker end. Otherwise, yeah, I think we've followed the path as best as possible, and there's just not much going on. Yeah. It's slow days turn into fast days, and then they turn right back into slow days. So we got that spot volume. It's very sparse. Even the top runner for the day is kind of struggling. It's not really as aggressive as it could be. The number 2 is about half the percentage gain, and it's pulling back most of the day. So I clicked something. Oh, I clicked the sort thing. There we go. So, with all that said, you just gotta keep in mind the neighborhood we're in. So INBS is halted. Let's see when that unhalt time is. We got 10:07, so 10:12:54. So we have about 3.5 more minutes, which is kind of like a power play. So this would be the opportunity for the volume to pump back into this stock if it was going to. And it's going to be NCL and ANGH that get the volume. So now it's just, do we take the volume from NCL, or does NCL take the volume from us? So far we're not seeing volume. We do have a beautiful ask stack here, which is great, all the way up to $4. But we also have a couple walls here on the bid side, but nothing really significant, mostly just on the ask side. So now the setup is there, we just need the volume. So let's keep an eye on NCL. Let's see if that is going to be decreasing volume, which it is. Yep, nothing's moving here on the time and sales. So we are in pretty like we're in the best possible position for our pop pretty soon. So I would say the next like 3 minutes or so. So this candle or the next should have something for us in theory. So if something different happens, then we know that stuff's just funky and we can probably just consider getting out and calling it a day. But we should see a move probably on this candle here. It sure is taking a little bit. And I kind of like days like this too, because it helps me assess like new traders. Like if a new trader is watching along, how anxious would a new trader be right now? Like how stressed out do you think they would be waiting for them to get that validation and close that dopamine cycle? The anticipation loop. I think they'd be pretty stressed. I think they wouldn't even be looking at this chart. They'd probably buy some shares, and they'd come over here and come over there and just click all the things and start looking at the comment section and going on the company's social media and stalking their CEO and be like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? Yeah, maybe. They might panic, buy and sell. They would definitely be second guessing their analysis right now. I like to call it the indicator shuffle. That's when they'll have like one setup that they're like, maybe they do the initial setup correctly and maybe they do it efficiently and with discipline. And they get into the trade and then the trade goes sideways or it just kind of sits there and then they start doing things, right? Because they want to make it happen. They want to work more in an attempt to get compensated more. And that's not how it works. So they'll sit there and they'll constantly reassess and they'll constantly analyze. And all they're doing is talking themselves out of the initial setup. And they're working harder for no additional pay. It's like hanging out after you've clocked out of work and just continuing to work. So once we're in, we just let the setup play out. We don't have to sit here and reanalyze and do all this other stuff. I am pointing out certain things that I see based on my experience that should indicate what should happen soon to kind of narrate for you guys. But in reality, if I was just trading this on my own, I probably would have just set a bracket and walked away, or a series of OTOs or OCOs that walk the price up. And that's it. Like, I don't like putting a lot of effort in because I don't get paid more. Yeah. Oh yeah, what time is the unhalt here? So 10:12:54. So this should unhalt here in a second. Boom, there we go, 8:45. So that is halting mid. So that's interesting. Interesting. So that's probably going to pull down. Beautiful. Possessive says, hang on, sorry, I got to keep an eye on the price here as well. Yeah, I've learned a lot of lessons from the market this year. First year trading. Good stuff, man. That's what it's all about. It is going to be a constant learning process. You're going to keep learning. You're going to keep making progress. You're going to keep, I'm just going to see if this will pull back. So basically when I see a move like this, what I'll do is I'll use the wick of it as a hard stop after we get a little pullback there. And then if it breaks below that again, I'm just out because I don't want to fight with it. It does increase the risk range a little bit when I do that, but that's okay. I'd rather have the confident move. So it's 4% basically. All right, so it looks like we might be getting ready to test that stop out there. I'm just looking for a move below 356. If I get that, it's a hard stop and I'm out. But either way, my setup now is not validated for that specific entry. So if it wants to come back and go up and all that, I'll stay in. Otherwise, if it comes back up and then drops below, I'll just cut it. And you got to be kind of cutthroat when it comes to stuff like that. You can't just hang out and hope you're right and then just kind of spend all that time in denial, because that's where people compromise. That's where they tend to hurt themselves. So I'm taking little 3 to 4% hits on some of these. And that's okay. Sorry, I'm trying to read the chat as well. I wish Discord let you move the chat to the other side, the left side of the window. Because it's like, I guess I'll read, but I have to like, I can't watch this specifically, which is what I'm looking at, the time and sales. Just got my 2% for the day from ESHAs. Thankfully, I'm done. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Looking forward to seeing everyone again next year. That is awesome, man. So you got your 2%, you're done for the day. Your focus on the market is over. It goes back in the box, and the box goes on the floor next to your desk, and you can move on with your life, right? Because the market is not a huge part of your day, I'm assuming, right? And that 2% will compound. You know, you got 250 plus trading sessions every year. So 2% compounds stupidly well. But good stuff, man. So congrats on that. That is beautiful. I love seeing it. All right, so it looks like we're pulling back up into the box here, but of course this box could also serve as rejection if we don't get the volume that we're looking for. We kind of have an aggressive stack on the ask, but it's a little higher up. It's got to get past this 380 level in order for that to matter. So if we get a push up here to the 380s, maybe. Otherwise, if we break below 356, that's my hard stop, and I'm just cutting it, and that's it. So we'll see where the market goes. I don't control any of that. I only control, again, if I'm in or if I'm out. I don't control if it goes up or down. That's not my, I wish it was my choice. It's just not. I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit as well because I don't really like focusing in too much. I just try to show you guys like the little micro moves. But usually when I'm trading, it's kind of like this because I just want to see the overall move. And that also helps give perspective, you know, especially when you get those big pops, you can kind of see where it's likely to slow down. So it looks like INBS is pulling back as well. So this is what I'm looking for. I want to see this pull back and start to fail pretty hardcore, right? And I've still got another buy that I can use. I'm not going to add it to ANGH because I'm not going to average down on anything today. But I still have another opportunity, so I can always catch this one on the way back up as well. But I want that one to die because that's taking all the volume out of the other tickers, and I want that volume to come back and push this one back up to kind of where it should be. So we're starting to get a little more volatility on it, which is good, but it's got to get directional volume. I can't imagine your trading log at the end of the year for tax with all your tiny trades. It's a team of CPAs. No, it's not really that bad. You know, it's all spreadsheet automated at this point. We live in the age of Fortran and COBOL, so they'll figure it out. They get their cut, though. I think the crappy part about being a CPA is that you and I, because we're traders, we don't get all of our documentation until February because they have to wait until the 30-day watch sale window closes before they can actually, you know, send you that form. So that puts a real time crunch on CPAs because they only have 2 months to do it. And if you've got a bunch of people in the market, especially day traders, and it's a smaller, like say it's a smaller CPA office, that kind of sucks. So got to be cautious of that. But also just kind of, I feel like the wash sale rule is kind of silly at this point. You know, it's 2025 and these algos always do it. Like the wash sale rule doesn't really do anything today. Like it doesn't accomplish anything. It just makes taxes more complicated. I say let them wash sale. They're already doing it. They just do it with multiple accounts. One buys, one sells. It's not that difficult. Yeah, they're also changing the minimum margin requirement for margin accounts for the PDT rule, the pattern day trade rule. So for anyone who wasn't familiar, you used to need to have 25K as a balance at the close of the previous trading session if you wanted to execute more than 3 day trades within a 5-day rolling period and not get flagged as a pattern day trader on a margin account. But they're changing that threshold. They're lowering it allegedly down to 2K. And again, I think the pattern day trade stuff, it's all old world stuff. Like it's all back from the 80s, 90s. None of that stuff really applies today the same, just like the settled cash window. We're not in 1995 where you have to call up a broker and then the broker has to submit paper forms and fax things over to their clearinghouse and things like that. It's not that era anymore. So I'm glad that we have overnight settling. And, we've seen it with crypto, for example, that there can be infinite, settlements, near infinite, I should say. But they got to throttle us somehow, right? So I do also think that would open the door to a lot of addiction. So I kind of see where there is value in that as far as the settled cash fund goes. But that could also just be on the broker, just restrict certain things, But I don't think it should be a FINRA regulation. I think that should be broker dependent. Just my personal preference. All right, so we got a little bit of a buy up here on ANGH, and we're just waiting for that to continue if and only if it gets volume. So that happened on kind of mediocre volume. It was 204K. It wasn't significant. It was like 1/20th or 1/25th of the float. So we'll see. But I'm also seeing a lot of slowdown here on these guys. So ESHA, for example, a lot of friction up here. NCL just straight up pulling down. That's what I was looking for. We wanted to see a big drastic move to the downside so we can get our volume back, and we're kind of seeing that. UOY still fighting with this box. It's got to break over like $4, or it's got to come down here again to $3 and test. Not much going on there. INBS pulling down. I want to see a drastic sell-off to the point where it chain halts, and then that would basically release all this volume. And that's really what I'm looking for. I want to see all that volume just completely collapse, and then that would spill over into these, maybe 3 or 4 buckets here. So that's what I'm looking for. And this move here, I'm not super thrilled about because we took this zone here, which was at one point a dominant force, and we've turned it into a transitory zone by just completely bisecting it. So we may get volume, but the move is originating from between 2 levels. So I'm not a big fan of that. And that's also transitory. So I'm not going to complain. Obviously, it gives me volume, and if I get my profits, I'm good. But I would like to see a good, strong push up. I don't want to see it kind of start halfway between zones and then kind of putter around halfway between zones. I just want to see a good, clean, strong push. So it's New Year's Eve. We get sketchy volume. We get sketchy everything. So we got to be careful. Does anyone here not have a trading coach, by the way? If you're like on the free side? I'm just curious. If you don't have a trading coach, put the letter F in the chat. Just F as in Frank or Fudge or Factory. Fudge Factory. Just so I know, and then we can ask you some questions about your trading. But it's worth having a coach, in my opinion. I'm not going to give you guys a sales pitch, but if you're struggling and you're heading into 2026 with the best of intentions for having things go different this year, this is your best opportunity, in my opinion. Oh, what's going on, buddy? So the original one was below the orange box here, and then we pushed down, and I said I was going to wait for a retest of that low because it was an impulse, and it just didn't break below that, so I'm still in it. So I probably would have just re-entered anyway at this point, so I just saved myself an extra buy. But now 356, well, 355 technically is my hard stop. So if it touches 355, I'm out. So basically what we're waiting for is for INBS to just die and discourage all the algos that are chilling on it. We do have a nice bid wall here, which is good. So once the volume falls out and these, these little spot walls stop popping up and getting filled, once this volume continues to die off, this should fall down and collapse, and then that volume should spill over into other buckets, which we have them handy. So 3 out of the 4 that are on our watch list here are up here. So they're going to catch that volume. And I'm in one of them. I'm not going to be trading ESHA. It's got too much friction up here, and it's $26 a share, which means I'd only get 1 share, which is fine. I would rather scale out and stuff. ANGH is number 3 in the list, and I'm in that one. And then NCL is also, it needs a retest, basically. So I don't like it here. And I'm actually going to draw a box right here. Let me redraw that box. Art class is canceled, guys. There we go. And this, of course, is going to be transitory because it is chopped through in both directions. Chop, bounce, chop, bounce, bounce. So it's a good level, but it's not like a guaranteed pivot. All right, so there's that. CETX looks like it's also getting a little bit of a buy up here. Again, nothing super aggressive. I just bought these 2 little tracker shares, and that price is way up here. That's above $3.30. So this is not a full position. I'm kind of just keeping an eye on it in case it gets a good set of volume and some breakout. But I need a little more than this because this is just kind of recovering. It's not really pushing for the day. So we'll see where that one wants to go. Other than that, we're just hanging out and watching 2025 fade away. How's your year? The whole year, how was it? Walk me through it. What'd you do on January 2nd? What'd you have for breakfast? My answer is probably a monster. Yeah, I think once INBS breaks below 8, I think we should be okay. It's trickling down. Like if we look at this, it was up in the 850s, 860s. Now it's just kind of slowly meandering down. So if I come down maybe like the 1 minute, you'll see it. It's kind of just like it's breathing, right? It's breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So it's kind of taking this like deliberate breath up, and now it's time to exhale, in theory, based on what I'm seeing. So we'll see if that does. But that's kind of what we're waiting for. And then we want it to basically Valsalva, which is where you kind of breathe out with force and you kind of bear down, and it's really bad for your heart if you're not in SVP. But again, don't do that at home, please. I'm just kind of throwing a concept out there. We want this to apply internal pressure and then collapse. That's basically what we're looking for. I want it to stabilize itself and slow itself down. And then I want it to fall off and kind of have a cardiac incident. So what's up, T. Craig? How's it going? Sorry, I just saw your message there. How's your 2025, buddy? You got any trading resolutions you want to put in place for 2026? Actually, everyone, if you feel like sharing that, go ahead and slap it in the chat. What's the one thing about your trading that you want to change this year, given that it starts tomorrow? Your trading doesn't start till Friday, but your setup and your plan can start tomorrow. And if part of your plan is not trading on holidays, you're off to a great start because the market's closed. So you got a 100% success rate as of tomorrow. What are you going to do the next day, the next day, the next day to carry that on? The choice is yours. And a day where I stop after a profit before losing it back, yeah, that's a pretty common obstacle. It's easy to kind of view the profits as house money or to ride the high or just want to make a little bit more. And you got to be careful. So the way to do that is to incorporate rules into your strategy where if your first trade is a win, you should hit your goal for the day, and then it's much easier to just close the browser or the brokerage app, whichever you use. Right? So if you don't have a goal for that first trade and it's a winner, it might as well not matter because you're just going to go for another trade, right? And then you got to figure out what's driving that choice. Is it fear? Is it a fear of not participating and making the most of the day and the most of your settled cash? Or is it like a euphoric, I'm in the moment, I'm winning, I'm winning. I want to make more and capitalize on this moment, which is the same fear, right? Or is it driven by pressure? Do you feel like you have to make money in the market and you have to have not just one successful trade, but 2 successful trades? Otherwise, you're not going to hit your goals. You're not going to succeed. You're not going to be able to accomplish your dreams or whatever. People put way too much pressure on themselves in the market, and that's counterproductive. You want this to be super boring. You want it to be like lazy and kind of annoying to the point where you're just like, oh, I got to trade today. Blah. That's the goal. I want to get you guys to that spot because then I know you're doing it right. If you can view it kind of as a chore, like you wake up, you make your bed. That's the goal. I want you guys that's a very small part of my day. I just got to do it. But what do most traders do? They sit there for 4 to 6 hours making their bed over and over and over after it's already been made. And it's just not good. Excision, have a one-on-one with you to reset myself and understanding, be more disciplined and patient, have a good setup where I'm not staring at charts and confusing myself. That's awesome. Yeah, let's set that up. You're in lifetime, so you get 6 of those one-on-ones. So whenever you're ready, if you may already have a ticket open. I'm sorry, I didn't get to check them this morning. But yeah, just open up a support ticket, and as soon as I get to them, we'll make sure we get you set up. He does. Okay, thank you, Nikki. Nikki coordinates all those for us because I am way too scatterbrained. It's pretty bad. But yeah, we'll definitely get you set up. That's a great one because that resetting and slowing down and just making sure you're more deliberate with your decisions and actions. I think that like once you take ownership over your risk exposure, the whole thing changes. Like once you figure out that you don't have to be in unhealthy stuff, it gets a lot easier. Like you don't owe a ticker anything just because you chose to enter it. Like you have to kind of view it as it's like an abusive situation. Like it wants you to stay. It wants you to be under its control, and you kind of want to allow it to a degree. Like that's how our brain works. That doesn't mean that you deserve it though, and it doesn't mean that you can't break that cycle. You just have to recognize that you're an organism and you're programmed to do certain things under certain conditions, and you can change that, which is the really cool part about being a human, is that our brains are, we have plasticity. We can change things from, within. So yeah, let's definitely, we'll hook it up. And maybe that'll happen before ANGH moves up. Maybe not. I think in the interest of saving time though, I am probably going to add my second buy here pretty soon because I do have stuff I gotta jump off the stream here pretty soon. So I'm doubling up my position here. And then I'm going to end the recording and the live stream portion in a little bit. And then I'll probably just end up cutting the CETX shares. I'm not seeing the move that I was looking for, and I don't want to hold these past like noon, but I also don't want to hold them past like 11. So I'll probably just cut them, take the hit on it, and just move on with my life. So just really quickly, just slam that 1.5% and be done for the day on this one. Let me just go over here and cut these actually while I'm thinking about it. Because what'll happen is Pookie's very busy. So Pookie's going to close the browser and not come back to it. And I will miss that. And I'll still have them on Friday. So we don't want that to happen. All right, so we're stacked up pretty heavy on the ask here, which is great. That's kind of why I decided to just pull the trigger and add that. We broke over a local high. We're coming out of a zone that we like. We have a good entry criteria. Maybe I got in a little bit high, but that's okay. So if it's going to go, it's going to go. If not, I can always cut it. But let me end the live stream social media portion of it. If you guys are not in the Discord, I'm going to put the link in here. You guys can join the Discord for free. This is we did this one in the free side for the holiday. I'll see you guys over there, and I'll hang out with you guys here in the Discord as I do my little post-stream cleanup thing. So in stream.